Hello again, I am Blunty. So, Elden Ring, the review embargo is up, the reviews are out, but there is one comment I wanted to zero in on in particular, and this doesn't come from a specific review, but it does come from someone who had review code. It's Jason Schreier, who you may have heard of, works at Bloomberg these days, but he tweeted out something about this game mechanically that has a lot of people responding in two very diametrically opposed ways, and I found it quite interesting, so I wanted to have this discussion with you guys. So we're going to look at the tweet, and we're going to look at some of the responses to it, and I'm going to tell you how I feel about it, because it's an interesting one. It's a simple thing, but it's a real interesting point on which to turn. That's not a phrase, that's not a metaphor. And it also points out something that I've been noticing in the Soulsborne community as I've been lurking in various corners of the community over the last week or so, while preparing the other video I did, and while just preparing for the game in general, sort of seeing what I can learn about the community, about the attitudes, about the game and things like that. And that is, a lot of Soulsborne players are contrarian just to be contrarian. There are things in Soulsborne games that lag behind the design of the rest of the gaming industry, and their excuse for it is, well, that's just how Soulsborne games have always been. They have somehow convinced themselves that 40 years of continual evolution and iterative design in video games is useless, pointless. Every advancement, every quality of life improvement, every convenience, every new feature to make the game flow smoother, that's all useless, because FromSoft haven't done that. Therefore, they should never do that, which is one of the dumbest attitudes I've ever come across in gaming, and that's saying something because, well, you guys know. And here's my one simple counterpoint to that, to dismantle that stupid attitude. For 25 years, the mainstream Pokemon games, the core Pokemon games, have always been one way. And Pokemon players were like that too. Don't change it. They've always been this way. And every time a new gimmick comes along, oh, it's a stupid little gimmick. I hate the new gimmick. And other people are like, oh, I love the new gimmick. But then Pokemon Legends Arceus came around and completely rebuilt, the bones of a Pokemon game. And everyone was like, well, actually, that's a lot better. That's one of the best Pokemon games I've ever played, actually. They changed a lot, but it's not how Pokemon games have always been, but somehow it's still good. So let's take a look at that tweet. Jason Schreier. If you plan on playing Elden Ring, here's a big tip. Have a journal, or my version, a text edit file. Thanks, Jason. Couldn't figure that one out. We can write things down on paper, or you can take a note on a pretend imaginary paper document thing on the computers called a notepad. That's only been around for, 35 years? More? Thanks, Jason. Your audience is idiots. You need to remind them about this stuff sometimes. You can put markers on the map, but there's no quest log or NPC appendix. And you'll find it very helpful to keep track of what's where and who wants what. Now here's the thing I was talking about. This is how Soulsborne games have always been. And it's a dumb choice, in my opinion. Let me phrase this in another way. See this salt and pepper up here? This grey in my beard? I've been around for a while. I've been around for basically as long as home gaming has been around. And when I was a kid, when games would come out, particularly sort of the second and third generation of games when stuff started to expand and get more complicated, the manuals you would get in the box with the cartridge would often have, at the back of the manual, several blank pages with lines, just lined pages, like a notebook. And they were there for you to take notes on, because the games often didn't have proper save files. They didn't have things like quest logs. So you had to take notes about certain things that would happen in certain types of games, so you could remember to go back there, or remember to do this and go see this character, or remember a key part of dialogue you might need, things like that. And then, technology got better and game design got better, and that started being included in the game, what we now call quest logs or appendixes and things like that. So I'm no stranger of taking notes for a game. Coming back to Pokemon, I did it for several of the Pokemon games. There are several puzzles in Pokemon games where you just have to write stuff down because you have to translate Braille or unknown and stuff like that. And you literally have to get out a paper and pen and you have to translate the stuff manually. This is how games used to work. Used to. And this is where we get into that dichotomy of people who are used to modern conveniences in games because it makes the gaming experiences smoother, and Soulsborne people who think just because it's always been like that, they should never ever change it for the sake of convenience. Both sides have a point, legitimately. I'm not going to argue one way or the other particularly strongly with this, because I see both sides of this with my gaming history the way it is. Cameron Berg, gonna buy me a leather journal just for note-taking. And that's one of the positive sides of this game. If you can hear truck reversing, just try to ignore it. The window has to be open. It's very hot and it's raining and it's muggy and I need airflow, so sorry about the background noise. But that's one of the things that crossed my mind. For a couple of games in the past, games I've really loved and felt passionate about, I have done this. I bought a nice notebook. Not just scraps of paper, not just, a little notebook thing you with the spiral binding you leave by the side of the phone, or at least you used to leave by the side of the phone when phones were in one place and not everywhere you were. I would buy nice notebooks for specific purposes, sometimes for gaming, sometimes for other stuff. In fact, right on my shelf there. Every black spine you see there, or except for that one with the gold on it, that one's something else. But pretty much every black spine you see on the, on the shelf back there, that's like a Moleskine or a Moleskine-like notebook that I bought for a specific purpose. A nice little notebook for a specific purpose. I like nice notebooks. So if you're really passionate about this game, that would be a nice thing to do. Get yourself a really nice notebook, leather bound or something, or leatherette, or whatever the vegan equivalent is. And make notes and draw pictures and stuff like that. Make it a proper adventure journal, like you were doing a D&D campaign or something. That is a wonderful idea, I think. It will help the immersion, or help you soak into the world, or help you learn things about the world, because in writing things down and making notes, things tend to stick in your head better, which is why in school you're told to write things down over and over again. The more you do that, the more it sticks in your head. It's just a very simple trick of how the brain works. That also sounds like a wonderful thing too. It's very disruptive to the gaming experience because you have to stop the game, make your notes, and go back to the game. Here we go, one of the contrarians who think Souls games are special in a special way and should never be unspecialed. The ultimate rejection of open world design. I love it. Souls games have never had any of this, and adding it just because it's a huge world would be surrendering to open world design tropes. Fuck yeah, I'm buying a notepad. That attitude is stupid. I've already established I think a notepad can be a nice thing, so just frame it up like this, but that attitude in general is stupid. Surrendering to tropes. It's not a trope, it's a quality of life thing to help you stay in the game. That's why quest logs and stuff like this exist, to stop you stopping playing the game, doing something else, and then going back to the game. That's an interruptive sequence. These features that have been evolving in games for 40 years are there to help you stay in the world of that game. It's not a trope, it's a design evolution. As games get ever more big and have ever more quests and side quests and things like that, keeping track of them becomes a bigger job. So having the game do that for you is a good thing. My fave part of Souls games, the only way to progress being gated by a single item hidden in a transparent doodad you can walk through in a corner of the swamp area that spans 4 times the size of any other of the other areas. But when you finally find it, yeah, I love doing that in games. Just wandering around aimlessly and hopelessly, utterly confused until you stumble across the one thing you need to open up the next area or complete the next quest and stuff like that, completely by accident. I don't find that particularly rewarding. I think, oh, thank God I finally tripped over this thing. Not, oh, I succeeded in finding it. Go me. I followed all the little hints and the breadcrumbs and I knew which area of the map to locate, and I knew it was underneath a tree in the sun and things like that. And I hunted it down using, the game, what the game tells you instead of, yeah. Well, here we go. Manu Biggs. These things used to come with space for notes in the booklet. Another old school game, who remembers? Back when there was blank pages in manuals, or when there was manuals at all, really. Would it fit the theme of the game if you could expand those markers, the manual markers you can place on the map, to expand them into a tiny note where you can write some stuff? It's good that there are markers, but I can imagine that you will forget what most of those markers are after a few hours unless you leave the note. That is the solution I would use. If you want to keep the game mysterious and open-ended, if you want to avoid the to-do list style of gameplay that quest lists often make people feel, that would be my solution for it. We can put our own markers on the map, but also let us put a note on the marker so we know what that marker was there for. A lot of games give you different icons, like they give you 5 or 6 different icons, so you can mark where a monster is or a resource is and things like that, and that helps a little bit. But with a game like this, I feel like being able to put a marker down is going, cave here, blocked off by inaccessible something, I don't know, whatever it is. That would be my solution for this issue. Very old school, hell yeah. Very old school. I never do this for games, but I might actually try it for this one. Thanks for the tip. And that might be going back to what I was just talking about. That extra level of making it a proper adventure journal can be part of the experience. Even if it is disruptive to the gameplay, it can still be supportive of the gameplay. Oh, here we go. Here's one that sort of does the chore list metaphor. Great, no chore list anymore. If you don't do a side quest, the world won't end there. You're very interested in some NPC quest, take some notes, and do some effort to complete it. From Software knows how to create a game. Disagree. What's the difference between making your own notes and having the game make the notes for you when it comes to a side quest? Go to this location, search this location, find this NPC, deliver this item or collectible or craftable or whatever. Why is it substantively different to write that down yourself versus just having the game automatically keep track of that? The only thing about that is, one is a choice you make, the other is the game just doing it automatically, but you can choose to ignore that quest list. I have a friend who constantly drives me insane by ignoring quest lists. And I keep screaming at them, you should go and do this because it unlocks this. And they're like, oh, I'll get to it. They never get to it. So that's my counter argument to that. If you don't like to-do lists, if you don't like seeing a quest list saying this quest, this quest, this quest, this side quest, this side quest, this side quest, this collectathon, you don't have to look at that. You can ignore that. The game doesn't force you to do those. And you acknowledge that by saying, if you don't do a side quest, the world won't end. There are so many open world games that end up feeling like arbitrary autopilot that really shakes some gamers when the game actually asks for your attention and rewards you with a new sense of satisfaction. That's a you problem. If you feel like you're just going down the quest list on autopilot because that's the list of the do things, that's how you are choosing to play the game. I love quest lists because I get to go through the quests and say, well, what do I feel like doing? Do I feel like going on a dungeon crawl? Do I feel like going on a bit of collectathon? Do I feel like just chilling out on a nice little easy fetch quest or something? And I go through my quest list and look, well, that one's going to take a while. Or this little fetch quest, we can get that done in the next 15 minutes while I'm waiting for my dinner to heat up and, stuff like that. That's what a quest list like that is good for, because you can choose what you want to do next. You don't have to go down the list top to bottom and do things just because the game is telling you these are things you could be doing. That's not a design issue. That's a player issue. Jimbot. Ugh, no thanks. Real MMO should be more like EverQuest energy. The compromise for this antiquated idea is the game keeping track of it for you if you marked something using a skyglass or whatever. I have no response to that besides the fact it's funny to see that EverQuest argument come up again after it's been a while since I've seen that come up. Sounds like an immersive way to play the game. I always love making little notes to feel like an actual adventure. That's, again, what I was talking about before, making an adventure log. Not just making notes, but making it a log, making it part of your story of playing the game. Writing it out, like a journal of your adventure. I prefer the usual Soulsborne method of quest following where you forget who told you to go where and all progress happens entirely by accident. Here we go, the arrogant tone of the Soulsborne player comes up on this one. A lot of people don't seem to understand that if I was told where Solier is, that's a character from one of the other games I presume, if I was told where he was and could see a locked list of objectives, yet to do that would be terrible. FromSoft does engaging with characters differently and naturally. If you miss them, you miss them, and that's that. How is that better? I like being able to find secrets, yeah. I like being able to figure things out on my own, given a few hints, yeah. But I want those hints stored. Ghost of Tsushima had a nice balance of this. They had the objective marker listings. They also had quests where you would give a little fragment of an image and you had to find that location in the world to do a thing. They had things you had to track down manually. That was a really nice balanced way to do this kind of stuff. And this is I'm not sure whether Elden Ring would benefit from going fully in that direction, but closer to that, I think. Closer to that balance. But I do agree that a game like this probably shouldn't have just map markers scattered all over the place. You know, this is an outpost, and this is a resource node, and this is a cave, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. I think that would diminish the game, certainly. But I don't think having a quest record in the game would diminish it. But yeah, I think from what I've learned about the game so far, from the previous stuff, from the reviews that came out today, exploring, testing, poking around is a huge part of making the world feel like a proper world. So, preset map markers like Ubisoft style again, I think would be a very big mistake. But again, coming back to the earlier idea, map markers you can place yourself with a note to remind yourself why you put that marker there would be a very good idea. Oh no, I desperately want to enjoy From Software games, but this sounds overwhelming to me. And that's the thing. If you have to manually remember everything you're ever told and to do and go find and things like that, it can feel overwhelming and a little bit ableist, actually, to people who don't have the best sort of short-term memory and things like that, or a detailed memory. And I'm one of those people, I don't sleep very well all the time, so my memory gets rather balked up. So having a reminder in game is very helpful. This person at this location. Yeah, forget. So it can feel pretty overwhelming if there's none of that in the game. But here's a response to that as well. I think it's intended to do the opposite. Open world games like Assassin's Creed have ballooning quest logs that can be overwhelming. Again, that's a player issue, because if you have it, doesn't mean you have to use it. If you don't have it and you need it, that's when it feels missing. So I'd rather have it and have the people who feel like they don't want it just ignore it, than not have it and the people who need it or want it not have access to it. It's an accessibility thing as far as I'm concerned. But both these people have points, depending on the type of player you are. With ER, I think you can just follow your own path and it will work out. Said by someone who hasn't played the game. But it seems like a good idea and can be fun. So there's a lot more comments here, but I think we've covered over the main points and said what we need to say. I don't need to keep going on and on. This is already a longer video than I intended. But where do you sit on this? Quest log, no quest log, NPC reminder of dialogue, being able to rewind through that. When I'm playing this style of game that doesn't, if the quest log is very slim on details, or if I come across an open world thing that I think might be important that I don't know anything about yet, NPC hasn't mentioned it, there's no quest related to it, I will very often take a screenshot. I did that with the panels of the ancient carvings you see in Pokemon Arceus, for example. I thought, well, they might be important. I'll take a screenshot of that to remind me. And sometimes I'll take two screenshots, one of the thing, and then I'll take a screenshot of the map so I know where that thing was as well. So I can then just go back through my screenshot folders and go, oh, this thing in this location, let's go back and investigate that, things like that. And I'll probably wind up doing the same thing in Elden Ring as well. Taking screenshots of locations and taking screenshots of the map. I forget, it's been a while since I've used the screenshot function. I'm playing it on the Xbox. Does the Xbox have a way to edit screenshots? Can I put text on them? Like I can on the... So it'd be nice to be able to number those and then write in a journal what number that related to. Oh well, we'll figure it out. Anyway, how do you guys feel about all that? I think it's a really interesting topic, and I'm hoping some of you guys have some really interesting things to say about it. Thanks for watching. I am Blunty. We'll catch you next time. And thank you as always to the patrons scrolling above there.